man should not cry in front of his kids?
Ooh, this one's a spicy one for me. I've only seen my father cry once, and it was at mom's funeral. And I don't think I'll ever see him cry again, unless it's at his own deathbed. I would assume. I look up to my father that way. I think he's a solid rock. You know, when shit is going down, he doesn't panic. He thinks about it, handles it, and takes care of the job without complaining. That set a precedence for me, where most people know me. I don't really complain. I don't complain about my life. I don't complain about the cards I've ever been really dealt. It is what it is. You know, like, you move forward or you drown. That's how I've always kind of seen it. And I got that from my father, you know. So I'm going to agree with no, you should not cry in front of your children, especially your daughters. I don't know, you know, like, how it affects them. I just knew how it would affect me. Like, seeing my father cry for the first time, and it being my mother's passing, gave me a sense of admiration for my father. Even though they weren't together anymore, you know, my father loved my mother still. You know, my mother birthed him 3 children, the 3 children that he loves dearly now. So there's always a sweet spot for my mother for him. And sometimes, you know, fathers don't show it, or you guys kind of like, it just gets overlooked in a sense. And that was actually the first time for me to see my father. And that truly showed me how much my father actually loved my mother. Because I've never seen him cry in any other scenario ever in his life other than that.
It ain't popular. It's not going to be popular to say this. But ideally, you're not going to cry in front of your kids. They cry to you. Is
Right.
it fair? No.
Nope.
Is life fair? No.
Nope.
Is the dynamic between a man, a woman, a child fair? No.
Nope.
But personally for me, I want to take that responsibility of being the one that's stronger than all of them. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that responsibility. I want that responsibility in my life. I want to feel like I was a hero to them in every way. And I don't think a man that cries in front of his family is not the hero. But ideally, I'm not going to be doing that.
Right.
What he says resonates. It resonates hard with me. Like, yeah, I want that mantle. I am proud to have that mantle. I'm proud to be my family's rock. I am more willing for them to see me as the strong one, right? Because they can cry to me. My siblings can cry to me. They can cry to me all they want. It's perfectly fine. I'm never going to judge them. But I will never cry to them. My siblings see me as a father figure. And to see me cry would be kind of tough on my end, to see them see me in such a down state to where I had to show them that I was in such a state.
Well, it's weird. I've never actually seen my dad cry till this day. Like, not even once. The kids is looking to their father for that strength. And so if they're seeing their dad cry,
I
right,
agree.
I feel like that creates fear in the situation the kid has with their father. If you're crying in front of your kids, it's the same thing as crying in front of your girl. It's a bad representation of what you're supposed to be in that situation for them.
Now, I'll tell you when I do cry. Bro, when you see like one of those kids with Down syndrome get put in a high school basketball game, he starts nailing threes and the gym goes crazy, bro, I'll be crying my ass off. I'm so happy for the kid. It's like happy. I'm like laughing. I'm like, you know, but other than that, man, no, not at all. Calm the heat.
Can the person who like has kids?
All right. I was going to look. I have a father who I've never seen cry. So I get that. I was that man.
again, you have to understand my kids, my middle daughter, who I'm going to talk about, is 26 years old. Now, for some reason, out of all three of my children, that middle girl, from the time she turned 13 to 17, 18, we just butted heads, right? And the relationship wasn't going to where it should be going. And I want to be close to my kids. We sat down, she was about 20, maybe 19, 20 years old. We had a heart-to-heart about our feelings and how we really felt about each other, and I cried. And 6 years later, some years later, better relationship than we've ever had, because she saw a human part of me and not just me trying to be what you guys are talking about, which is a good thing too. You can count, my wife can count on one hand how many times she's seen me cry. I think my son had, and my other daughter haven't. But I'm going to tell you, for that enriching moment, and that's again just coming with years, of having those tears with her and talking about how important it was that our relationship work, and then hearing her come back and saying she felt the same way and breaking through that. I'm the father, I'm going to be the strong one. That made her break down and both of us be closer than we ever have been.
That's solid. This is solid, right? I don't know this. I don't have this experience. Me and my father don't have heart-to-hearts like that. And if, like, actually, the last time I had a heart-to-heart with my dad was about mom. I was having some terrible nightmares about my mom, and I just had to talk to it with my dad, because I can't talk it to my siblings because I don't want to bring them down. So I guess it'd be the rock, right, to speak to. And when I spoke with him, that was probably the last time, which was like a couple of weeks ago. And I don't know if him crying on those heart-to-hearts would affect me or not. I can see the sadness in his eyes when I brought the subject up. But maybe because I'm a man too, and I was raised this particular way, so it's hard for me to imagine how it will work out for me, because I took that stoicism that my father has always had and built it around myself too. I tell the truth, you know what? I would probably have loved to have that same type of dynamic that he did with the daughter, to where I could have a heart-to-heart with my dad and like, what's going on? Why are you acting up? Why are you doing these things? I think it might have been different. So I'm not going to judge on it. So I'm going to still stick with my answer, but does not mean I don't see the benefits of what this man just said.
Can I ask you a question about that? Do you think that if you could have set her down earlier than the age that you did and just had a vulnerable conversation, that maybe it could have happened? Like, it wouldn't have had to build all the way up to tears?
No.
She wouldn't have been able to hear it, or?
No, because what was going on, from my understanding of our relationship, is that, young people, I'm very independent, my children are very independent. They don't want to be controlled in a certain way. And as a father, you still have to keep that control.
Correct.
She was only seeing that side. So she was only seeing this domineering person trying to squish what she thought that she wanted to be or who she wanted to be. And that wasn't it. I was just trying to play the father role. I saw my dad do it. Never a tear. He's that man, and I was raised by that man, and I took that on. I remember sitting my son down and telling him, boys don't cry. And I still to this day regret that. And I still talk to him. He's 24. I still talk to him about I was wrong, because I do not think that's the way we're supposed to live our lives. And I think that's why you go back to the statistic of how a lot of men are depressed. We're supposed to have emotions. We're human. Now, I don't believe every time you turn around, you should be in front of your children, ooh, and your wife, I think that's a drastic thing. But I know dropping a tear as a father for me made a relationship and so much closer and so much better than it would. I'm telling you, I know than it would have ever been.
You don't think you could have shown that vulnerability without the tear?
No.
My dad was capable of expressing emotion, not from the standpoint of being a whiny little baby. He held it down on my family. My parents are the happiest couple I've ever seen, still to this day. But my dad was able to, and still is able to, at funerals, be able to show emotion. During movies, when he feels the emotion, be able to show up and do that. I'd never see him whining about, like what you guys are saying, whining about just issues happening in his life, like at work and what he's doing. Never. He deals with that on his own. But he is showing up vulnerably when he is experiencing an emotion, not from a whiny baby place, but from a freeness that he has with it. And I even think, like, when I first went off to college, he's tearing up too.
So I would just like to say, this is a field I specialize in. I'm a program manager for a nonprofit that focuses on mental health. And a lot of the times what we get in our clients are men that are coming in dealing with childhood trauma, these expectations and standards of trying to live up to the quote unquote masculine ideal. So a lot of the times we have men coming in because they're still trying to seek approval in their 30s, or they're still trying to get that male validation, in their 40s. And it goes back to making sure we understand the difference between regulating your emotions and suppressing them. I think that's why I said earlier, like, to be an alpha, you have to be balanced. You guys can be emotional as well. You guys can be vulnerable. It doesn't make you less than. Just like a woman being more assertive doesn't make her less than a woman. If you feel like you don't want to promote being emotional in front of your kids, I've asked the question, does that kind of fall into toxic masculinity for your son?
Well, first, I didn't say anything about not being vulnerable. Vulnerable is the word that I brought up. So I think being vulnerable is very important. I think physically crying in front of your kids is not ideal. This is not about an ego stroke or trying to be overly masculine. I think being vulnerable as a man is one of the strongest things a man can actually do. It's just that I don't think that crying, particularly sobbing, is going to be very healthy as the leader and the person that they're supposed to come to for that safety and that care.
But isn't real vulnerability then you're just not being honest, but like, yo, babe, sorry, I had this thing. I left and I cried, but now I'm here to be strong with you. That's real vulnerability.
I can't think of a scenario where I'd leave to cry.
Yeah.
See, I guess.
But needing feels performative. I'm trying to show you how vulnerable I am.
No, it's not necessarily showing. It's
I think you can be very vulnerable without crying.
Yeah. People just express their sadness in different ways.
You can be, but I heard what you guys were saying earlier, and I agree with that. It's like, you don't want to be a crybaby about things. We don't, right? But it's like to be for instance, if I'm at a funeral and this person meant something to tell me, no, can't do that. Or I see something on television or a movie that moves me, like, you can't do that. It's like kind of like a very...
I like that. Yes, I do agree that when something touches you and it just hits you, and then saying that, no, you should not do those things, or you shouldn't be crying, it does put a lot of pressure on men.
Weird thing, and I think you guys touched upon that.
There's just like a weird stigma behind like crying, because it seems like we keep associating crying with weakness. And the issue is that, like, again, there is a big difference between crying and sobbing. Yeah. So hysterically sobbing, like, I think definitely do if you, like, say you lost a loved one, like, really close to you, like say like your significant other, say like horrible accident, like stuff like that, like there are obviously scenarios for that. For like regular crying, again, kind of like we all touched upon, that we're not saying that you have to cry every other day, but like there are like cases where it's okay, it should be okay.
As kids, we look up to our dads to be able to how do we react to certain scenarios. Do you feel that, like, okay, like for instance, like my dad didn't cry. I don't think I've ever seen my dad cry. I've seen very bad like sad scenarios, straight face, and I feel like I developed that as like a kid. Like as I got older, like I have to keep this inside because that's exactly just how I saw my dad do it. How would you basically like explain to your kids how they feel like they should let out their sadness? Should they keep, especially if you feel like you're not really expressing sad emotions in front of them?
I think probably the best thing I can do is like explain to you what my goal as a father is to explain them the truth of the world. Truly, hey, this is the truth of the world. This is how the world is. Here's some competencies and things you can do to set yourself up, because my ultimate goal for my children is to have choice. So I can have a son, he could be gay, he could cry. He could be straight, he could cry. Like I could have daughters that were dominant masculine. I don't care as long as they have choice. I personally, my preference and what I aspire to be and what I want to be and what I get to be is that strong man for my family.
We all kind of believe that, like, we have to be a hero for our kids, right? Especially when they're super young. And honestly, I agree. I think it's totally, like, you need to be a role model for your kids, and
Yeah, 100%. The first heroes in your kids' lives should be you. Just saying.
need to be a safe space, which I completely agree with. But things happen as they grow up, you know what I mean? Especially when they go towards their teen years, when they start being more in touch with their emotion, when they're actually like feeling a lot of different things and feeling the pressure of society and everything that's collapsing around them. Sometimes they don't just need like a hero, they need a father to like commune with, to like actually talk with.
Yes.
Howard?
Whoa. Damn. That was a spicy topic for me. I actually love this little series that Jubilee did. It actually made me think about a lot of things, you know, how I should be with my kids and stuff like that too, actually. Like, again, my father, I've only seen him cry once, and I don't know, that to me was pretty big, as in he cried for my mother. I knew he always loved her, but to see the man do something that he's never done before for her, that was kind of big for me. So I don't know about crying in front of your kids. I'm gonna still go with my end, but I totally understand how the gentleman in dreads, like his story, that resonated with me too. So yeah, it is what it is. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Please like and subscribe down below. I'd really appreciate that, and I'll catch you guys next time. It's chow time.